Commander Ji-hoon stood at the large window of the space station, watching the alien ships leave Earth's solar system. The ships were beautiful and shiny, much more advanced than anything humans had ever built. They carried containers full of Earth's precious metals and food that would feed alien colonies across the galaxy. "Another successful trade day," said Dr. Minhee, as she walked up beside him. She held a tablet showing reports from human colonies on distant planets. "The Confederation seems happy with how much we produce for them." Ji-hoon nodded but felt something strange in his stomach. The aliens had been acting different lately. Their messages were shorter and colder than before. "Any news from our outer colonies?" Dr. Minhee's face became serious. "That's why I came. To find you. We've lost contact with 3 of our farming worlds this week." The last message from Colony Gamma 7 said many people were getting sick. Ji-hoon felt his heart beat faster. What kind of sick? They didn't say the transmission cut off in the middle. Within 3 days, the reports started flooding in from every human colony. People were dying from a strange disease that doctors had never seen before. It spread quickly through families, through entire settlements. Children were dying first, then adults. The hospitals couldn't keep up. Dr. Sunwoo worked day and night in his laboratory, trying to understand the disease. His team ran test after test on blood samples from the sick colonists. What they found made his hands shake as he typed his report. "The disease isn't natural," he told the emergency meeting of Earth's leaders. "Someone made it. Someone designed it to kill humans specifically." Admiral Young-ho slammed his fist on the table. "Is certain?" "Look at the genetic markers," Dr. Sunwoo said, pointing to his screen. "This pathogen has artificial sequences. It was engineered to target human DNA and only human DNA." Then came the intercepted message that changed everything. Dr. Hajin, from the communications department, had been secretly monitoring alien transmissions. Her face was pale when she entered the meeting room. "I decoded a Confederation military message," she said in a quiet voice. "You need to hear this." The translated message appeared on the main screen. Admiral Young-ho read it aloud, his voice getting angrier with each word. "Population control measures proceeding as planned. Human reproduction rates require adjustment. For optimal galactic integration, mortality rates within acceptable parameters. Species compliance expected within 6 months." The room fell completely silent. Then Dr. Minhee spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "They're killing us on purpose. They planned this," said Dr. Hajin. "They wanted to reduce our population. They think we breed too fast, that there are too many of us." Commander Ji-hoon felt something cold settle in his chest. They expected us to just accept it. Another intercepted message confirmed their worst fears. The Confederation had discussed the human problem for months. They considered humans useful workers, but worried about their rapid population growth. The solution was simple in their minds. Introduce a plague that would kill enough humans to make them manageable, but not so many that they couldn't still provide labor and resources. "They thought we would be grateful," Dr. Sunwoo said, staring at the reports of dead children. "They actually believed we would thank them for letting some of us live." The casualty reports kept coming. Entire families gone, whole settlements empty. The farming colony of New Seoul reported only 12 survivors out of 50,000 people. The mining world of Busan Prime had gone completely silent. Admiral Young-ho called for a vote. Every human leader in the solar system participated through video links. The question was simple. How should humanity respond to this genocide? "Gave us a choice," Admiral Young-ho said. "Accept their population control and remain their grateful servants, or face complete extinction." "What they don't understand," said Dr. Hajin, looking at the images of dead human children, "is that we have a third option." The vote was unanimous. Not a single human leader voted for forgiveness or negotiation, Commander. Ji-hoon watched the final Confederation ship disappear into hyperspace. The aliens had no idea what they had started. They had calculated that humans would be angry for a while, then return to work as usual. They had studied human history and concluded that humans always forgave their enemies eventually. They were wrong. "Send the message to all human colonies," Admiral Young-ho ordered. "Operation Silence begins now." Dr. Minhee looked confused. What's Operation Silence? We're going to show them what happens when you try to genocide humanity, Commander Ji-hoon replied. We're going to teach them that some things cannot be forgiven. The first phase was simple. Every human in Confederation space would disappear. Overnight. No explanations, no negotiations, no second chances. The aliens wanted to control the human population. They would get their wish in a way they never expected. The betrayal was complete. Now came the response. The silence began on a Tuesday morning at exactly 8 o'clock. Galactic Standard Time, Confederation Overseer Veltar was drinking his morning nutrition fluid when he noticed the first anomaly. The daily production report from Mining Station Alpha 7 was late. The humans who ran the facility always sent their reports precisely on time. They were annoyingly punctual about everything. Probably a communication delay, he muttered, but something felt wrong. Captain Doman was the last human to speak to any Confederation official. His message came through on the emergency channel, broadcast to every alien facility in human space. The transmission was only 8 words long. Operations discontinued. All contracts void. Effective immediately. Then every human voice in the galaxy went silent. On mining platform, Deltanine. The alien supervisor Kexanol walked into the control room expecting to find his human workers at their stations. Instead, he found empty chairs and abandoned equipment. The massive ore processors were still running, but no humans were monitoring them. Personal belongings were scattered on desks as if people had simply vanished mid-task. Where did they go? Kexanol asked the empty room. The same scene played out across thousands of facilities. Research stations fell silent. Manufacturing plants ground to a halt. Trade ships never arrived at their scheduled destinations. Within 72 hours, every human presence in Confederation space had evaporated like morning mist. Overseer Veltar called an emergency meeting with the Galactic Council. It appears the humans are having some kind of emotional breakdown, he reported. They'll return once they realize they cannot survive without our guidance. The council members clicked their agreement. These primitive species often need time to understand their place, said Counselor Zixtel. They depend on us for everything. They'll be back within a month begging for readmission. Odd. On Earth, something very different was happening. Engineer Siochin worked 18 hours a day. In the hidden facilities beneath Antarctica, the massive underground complex had been built in secret over the past year, using resources that were supposed to go to alien worlds. Now it hummed with activity as thousands of workers converted civilian infrastructure into something else entirely. Long do we have? Asked Director Jiang, reviewing the production schedules on her tablet. The Confederation expects us to come crawling back within 6 months, replied Dr. Taeyong. They can't imagine a species surviving without their protection and technology. Seo Kenny looked up from his engineering plans, and we have 6 months to become something they never imagined. The work was backbreaking. Factories that had produced consumer goods for alien markets were stripped down and rebuilt. The assembly lines that once made entertainment devices now manufactured components for weapons systems. Food processing plants became chemical synthesis facilities. Even the school laboratories were converted to research centers. On the mining world of Nuenchin, Colonel Hansol supervised the evacuation of the last human settlement. The planet's valuable minerals would stay in the ground. The Confederation could mine them themselves if they wanted them. The alien overseers arrived. Demanding to know why we're leaving, reported Lieutenant Wu Jin. Tell them nothing, Hansol replied. Let them figure it out themselves. The evacuation ships lifted off one by one, carrying away the colonists who had worked the mines for 15 years. Behind them, they left empty buildings and silent machines. The aliens would find no humans to operate the equipment. No humans to maintain the facilities. No humans to dig their precious metals from the ground. Dr. Sahi ran the biological research facility hidden in the mountains of Colorado. Her team worked around the clock, analyzing samples of the plague that had killed so many humans. But they weren't looking for a cure anymore. They were looking for something else. We've isolated the genetic markers, she reported to the weekly council meeting. The pathogen was designed to target human DNA specifically, but we can modify it. How long? Asked Admiral Nayon. Give us 4 months, Dr. Sahi replied. Months and we'll have something that targets their DNA instead of ours. Months passed in secret preparation. Every human colony became a fortress. Every civilian became a soldier. The children learned to operate weapon systems alongside their mathematics lessons. The elderly worked in munitions factories with the same dedication they had once shown to Alien. Trade quotas. Captain Kyung-ho supervised the construction of the new fleet in the shipyards of Europa. The vessels looked nothing like the crude human ships the aliens remembered. These were built for one purpose only. They're not designed to return home, he explained to the ship captains. These are one-way missions. Everyone understands that, right? The captains nodded. They had all lost family members to the plague. They had all seen the images of dead children on the colony worlds. They knew exactly what they were signing up. For as the 6th month approached, Confederation intelligence detected unusual activity in human space. Energy signatures that didn't match any known human technology. Ship movements that seemed random but followed no recognizable pattern. Perhaps we should investigate, suggested Counselor Maltex. No need, replied Overseer Velter. They're probably just having internal conflicts. When they get hungry enough, they'll come back. They always do. The silence stretched on. No human. Ships appeared at Confederation trade stations. No human voices answered communication attempts. No human workers reported for duty. On Earth, the final preparations were complete. The fleets were ready. The weapons were tested. The plan was set. The aliens had wanted silence from humanity. They were about to discover that some silences are more dangerous than screams. 3 years had passed since the last human voice was heard in Confederation space. Captain Valanox commanded the patrol vessel Harmonious Current as it drifted through the Kepler sector on routine patrol. The area had been quiet since the humans disappeared, though some mining equipment still floated, abandoned in the asteroid. Field's contact on sensors reported his navigation officer. Unknown vessel approaching from the outer system. Valenox studied the readings with interest. Configuration? It appears to be human design, but ... different. Much larger than their previous vessels. And the energy signature is unlike anything in our databases. The ship that appeared on their main screen looked nothing like the simple human cargo vessels, Valenox remembered. This craft was sleek and dark, covered in strange projections that might have been weapons or sensors. Most disturbing was its approach vector. It was heading directly toward them at maximum speed. Open communication channels, Valenox ordered. He expected the usual human pleading for readmission to Galactic society. Perhaps they had finally learned their lesson and were ready to accept their proper place. The response came immediately. A human face appeared on screen, young, calm, with eyes that seemed unnaturally cold. This is Captain Jinwoo of the Earth. Defense Fleet. Confederation vessel. You are in violation of human territorial space. Withdraw immediately. Valenox's mandibles clicked in amusement. Human territorial space? You have no territorial rights beyond your birth system. The Confederation granted you limited settlement privileges, which you forfeited by abandoning your duties. We disagree, Captain Jinwoo replied with the same emotionless tone. Return to your designated zones immediately, or face the consequences of the transmission cutoff. Valenox watched in confusion as the human ship suddenly accelerated directly toward Harmonious Current. His tactical officer shouted warnings about an imminent collision, but Valenox couldn't believe what he was seeing. They're not changing course, the tactical officer reported. Impact in 30 seconds. Evasive maneuvers, Valenox ordered, but the human vessel adjusted its trajectory to match their movements. In the final moments before impact, he realized the truth that made his blood freeze. The human ship's entire hull was lined with antimatter charges. The explosion vaporized both vessels instantly, creating a brief new star in the darkness of space. Similar incidents erupted across 3 sectors within the same week. Human ships appeared without warning at Confederation facilities, ignored all attempts at communication, and destroyed their targets through kamikaze attacks. The pattern was always the same. 1 human ship, 1 target.
Admiral destruction.
Admiral Nain commanded the human fleet from her flagship Remembrance. watching the tactical reports flow in from across their operational area. Each successful mission was marked by a single flashing red dot that appeared and then disappeared from the star map. "Tactical assessment, Colonel Hansel?" she requested. "Confederation forces are confused and disorganized," he reported.
Fair.
"Trying to understand our strategy, but there isn't one in their sense of the word. We're not fighting to capture territory or resources, because we're not fighting a war," Neon replied. "We're conducting an extermination." The Confederation's response was predictable. Their battle fleets moved to protect major installations while sending punitive expeditions to attack human colonies. What they found were empty worlds stripped of everything valuable. Colonists had vanished, taking their equipment and leaving. Behind only scorched earth and poisoned water supplies, Commander. Minjin led the defense of the abandoned colony on Titan 7. When Confederation Marines landed expecting to find civilians to punish, they instead found explosive devices hidden in every building. Entire settlement detonated as enemy troops moved through it, creating a crater visible from orbit. "Casualties?" Admiral Nahian asked when the mission report came in. Total, Minjin replied. "Theirs and ours." The volunteer garrison completed their mission. The volunteers had been families who lost children to the plague. They chose to stay behind and ensure the enemy paid for every meter of human soil. Their sacrifice bought time for the main fleet to position for the next phase. Dr. Sahi's biological weapons team had completed their work in the hidden laboratories of Earth. The modified plague was ready for deployment, engineered to target alien DNA with the same precision the original had shown against humans. But unlike the slow-acting pathogen that had killed human children over weeks, this version worked in hours. First test deployment at Proxima Station was successful. She reported to the Command Council. "The garrison is confirmed dead. All of them." Captain Wujin piloted his converted cargo ship through the wreckage of the Confederation's border defense network. The aliens had built their defenses to stop conventional attacks, fleets of warships engaging in honorable combat at long range. They were not prepared for ships that simply rammed into their stations at full speed while broadcasting the names of dead human children. For the children of New Sol, Wujin's final transmission read, "For the families of Busan Prime, for those who will never see another sunrise." His ship punched through the station's shields and detonated its reactor core from the inside. The explosion consumed both the station and a Confederation relief fleet that had just arrived to reinforce the position. The reports reached the Confederation Council within days. 7 major military installations destroyed. 3 fleet anchorages reduced to debris fields. Thousands of alien personnel dead, with no prisoners taken and no human survivors to interrogate. "They're not fighting like any known species," reported Fleet Admiral Kickstart to the emergency session. "No attempts to preserve captured infrastructure, no concern for their own casualties, no strategic retreats when faced with superior numbers. Then how do we stop them?" demanded Counselor Veltar. The room fell silent. No one had an answer. The humans had become something that violated every principle of civilized warfare. They fought like a species that had nothing left to lose, because that was exactly what they were. The Battle of Proxima. Station began at dawn on a Tuesday. Admiral Kung Ho led a fleet of 30 converted mining ships against the Confederation's most important military base in the sector. The aliens had been expecting this attack for weeks, and they were ready. "Enemy fleet approaching," reported the station's commander, Admiral Zixtel. 30 human vessels, all converted civilian craft. "Our defense fleet has 60 warships and the station's heavy weapons. This should be easy." The human ships looked pathetic compared to the sleek alien warships. They were ugly, bulky mining vessels with extra armor welded onto their hulls. Any military strategist would have laughed at such a mismatched battle. Admiral Zixtel opened communications with the human fleet. "Human vessels, you are outnumbered 2 to 1. Surrender now, and we will consider mercy." We didn't come here to surrender. We came here to teach you a lesson. What lesson could you possibly teach us? Zixtel asked with amusement. That actions have consequences. The battle began with the Confederation fleet firing their advanced energy weapons at long range. The human ships absorbed the damage without returning fire, continuing their steady approach toward the station. Their armor glowed red-hot under the alien assault, but they kept coming. Why aren't they shooting back? Asked Zixtel, as tactical officer. Because they're not here to fight, the Admiral realized too late. They're here to die. The first human ship reached the station's outer defenses and simply rammed into the shield generators. The explosion was massive, but it barely damaged the station's thick armor. However, it did something else. It created a gap in the defensive grid. The second human ship flew directly through that gap. Instead of targeting the station's weapons, it headed for the life support systems. The ship's cargo bay opened, releasing thousands of small capsules that spread across the station's hull like seeds in the wind. Biological contamination alert, reported the station's medical officer. Unknown pathogen detected in air recycling systems. Dr. Sahi had spent 2 years perfecting her revenge. The plague that killed human children was now modified to target alien DNA. The same weapon that had murdered entire human families was about to learn how it felt to be on the receiving end. The pathogen worked quickly. Within minutes, alien crew members began collapsing at their stations. The disease attacked their nervous systems first, causing paralysis, then moved to their organs. Unlike the slow death it had given to human children, this version was designed to kill in agony. Medical emergency on all decks. The stations. Computer announced. Crew mortality rate approaching critical levels. Admiral Zixtel felt the first symptoms as his bridge crew fell one by one. His vision blurred as he watched more human ships approaching. They're using our own weapon against us, he whispered. But the biological attack was only the beginning. The human ships carried weapons that defied every rule of civilized warfare. Captain Wooljan's vessel released a cloud of nanites that had been designed for medical purposes. Now they were programmed to consume alien technology, turning the station's own systems against itself. The station's computers began failing as the nanites ate through their circuits. Life support systems shut down. Artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. Emergency lighting flickered and died. Aliens found themselves trapped in a metal tomb that was slowly killing them. This is impossible, gasped Admiral Zixtel, as his ship's systems failed around him. These are medical nanites. They're supposed to heal, not destroy. Everything can be a weapon, replied Captain Woojin over the communication channel. You taught us that when you turn medicine into genocide. Human ships didn't stop with the station. They moved on to attack the Confederation relief fleet with weapons that seemed to come from nightmares. Cargo containers were launched at enemy ships like massive bullets. Mining lasers that were designed to cut through asteroids sliced through alien armor like paper. Most terrifying of all were the distress beacons. Every human ship broadcast emergency signals that carried computer viruses designed to crash alien systems. The viruses were hidden in the mathematical constants of the distress signal itself, making them impossible to filter out without ignoring genuine emergencies. They've weaponized everything, reported the surviving Confederation forces. Their medical equipment, their mining tools, even their emergency systems. Nothing is safe to interact with. Captain Jinwoo piloted his ship directly into the Confederation flagship's bridge. As his vessel burned through the alien armor, he broadcast the names of the dead on all frequencies. The list went on for hours. Children, families, entire settlements that had been erased by the plague. New Sol colony, population 50,000, all dead. His voice echoed through space. Busan Prime Settlement, population 30,000, all dead. These are the names of your victims. Remember them. As you die. The explosion that followed vaporized both ships, but the broadcast continued from other human vessels. The names of the dead became a weapon more powerful than any bomb. Within 6 hours, Proxima Station was a floating graveyard. The entire Confederation defense fleet was destroyed. Not a single human ship survived, but that had never been the point. The humans weren't trying to win battles. They were trying to send a message. The message was simple. Every human death would be repaid with interest. The aliens had killed millions of humans and expected gratitude. They were learning that some debts could only be paid in blood. Cannot fight an enemy that seeks mutual destruction. The Confederation Council concluded in their emergency session, they have become something beyond reason. They were wrong. Humanity's actions were completely reasonable. They were just based on a different understanding of justice than the aliens could comprehend. The last Confederation ship approached Earth like a wounded animal seeking shelter. Mercy's light carried only 12 survivors from what had once been a galaxy-spanning empire. Former Overseer Veltar stood on the bridge, staring at the planet that had become humanity's fortress. Earth looked nothing like the green and blue world the aliens remembered. The planet was surrounded by massive weapons platforms that blocked out sections of the sky. Strange energy fields crackled between orbital stations. Even the moon had been converted into a giant weapon, its surface covered with launch tubes and targeting arrays. "Send the surrender signal," Veltar ordered, with a voice that shook from exhaustion and fear. "Signal sent," reported the ship's communications officer, broadcasting on all frequencies, requesting permission to approach for peace negotiations. The response came immediately. Human voice, calm and professional, spoke through the ship's speakers. "Confederation vessel, you are cleared to dock at Platform 7. Any deviation from the designated flight path will result in immediate destruction." Director Mi-kyung waited in the reception chamber of the orbital platform. She wore a simple uniform with no decorations, but her presence filled the room with quiet authority. Behind her, the viewing screen showed images from across the galaxy, burning worlds, empty space where alien civilizations had once thrived. Refugee ships fleeing through the darkness. The Confederation delegation entered the chamber like broken shadows of their former selves. Veltar, once proud and commanding, now moved with the careful steps of someone who had seen too much death. The other survivors stayed close together, their eyes darting nervously around the room. "We come seeking negotiations," Veltar announced, his voice barely above a whisper. "Our remaining populations offer complete surrender. We will provide reparations, technology, anything you require for peace." Mi-kyung studied the aliens with the same expression a scientist might use when examining interesting bacteria. "You mistake our purpose. We don't want your reparations, then. Then what do you want?" "Completion." The word hung in the air like a death sentence. On the viewing screens, new images appeared, the final human fleets departing from Earth's orbital shipyards. Hundreds of vessels, each one carrying the tools of extinction to the last corners of Confederation space. "You taught us about population control," said Captain Giwan as he entered the chamber. His uniform was marked with the names of dead human colonies. "We learned the lesson very well." Beltar's voice cracked with desperation. "But surely there must be some possibility of coexistence, some form of forgiveness. We acknowledge our mistakes. We're willing to make amends." Forgiveness. Mi-kyung repeated the word as if it were in a foreign language. "Oh. You introduced a plague that killed our children. You expected us to thank you for it. You believed we would see the murder of our families as a gift from our wise alien benefactors. We're wrong," Veltar pleaded. "We see that now. Didn't understand humans. I thought you thought we were animals," Captain Giwan interrupted. "Useful animals that bred too quickly and needed to be culled. You planned our genocide like a farming operation." The screen showed more footage, human children dying in colony hospitals, families fleeing from the plague, entire settlements falling silent. Each image was labeled with dates and casualty numbers. The aliens were forced to watch the results of their population control measures. 50 million dead, Mikun stated. 50 million humans who died because you decided there were too many of us. Children who never got to grow up. Parents who watched their families die. Entire bloodlines erased. We cannot bring them back, Veltar said, tears streaming down his face. But we can try to make things right. Our scientists, our technology, our remaining resources, all of it can be yours. We don't want your things, Captain Giwan replied. We want justice. Through the platform's massive windows, the aliens could see Earth's final fleet preparing. For departure, ships were larger and more advanced than anything the Confederation had ever built. They carried weapons that had been perfected through years of warfare. Powered by the industrial might of a species that had learned to turn everything into instruments of death. Each of those ships carries the name of a human world you destroyed. Michion explained. The new Sol will sterilize the Cathara system. The Busan Prime will eliminate the Velteron homeworld. The Titan colony will ensure that no Zixtal survives to see another dawn. This is madness, whispered one of the surviving aliens. You're talking about the extinction of entire species. Yes, Michion agreed. Complete extinction. The same fate you planned for us, but executed with the efficiency you taught us to value. Veltar felt at his knees. Please, there must be another way. We can rebuild. We can learn to coexist. You can die, Captain Giwan said simply. That's the only option you left us. The delegation was escorted to holding cells where they would wait for news from the final battles. The screens in their prison showed the countdown to each fleet's arrival at its target. They would watch their species die just as humans had watched theirs. We thought you would forgive us, Veltar said to his empty cell. The lights dimmed as Earth's power grid focused on launching the final wave of ships. In the darkness, Mikun's voice echoed through the station's speakers, carrying the planet's final message to the galaxy. Forgiveness was never an option. Earth had other ideas about justice. Actions have consequences. Some debts can only be paid in full. The last human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with them the end of the Confederation and the final lesson about the price of underestimating humanity.